in front, Jane. Okay, we're good to go. Good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, November 6th, 2024, and we'd like to welcome everyone to the board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. The teleconference number is 971 254 3149, conference ID 866 914 607 pound. Audio capabilities are listen only and are offered on a best effort for the public. Our meeting is also live streamed, and you can join us online by going to our website or to tctvonline.com. Click on live broadcasts. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute your phones. You can do this by pressing star 6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is ready to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your microphone and turn on your camera when your agenda item is called. All others must remain muted with your cameras turned off. Thank you. Public comment. Those intending to provide public comment to the board may attend in person or email submissions to the public comments email on our website. Public comments received by 12 p.m. on Tuesday will be distributed to the board, posted online before the meeting, and become part of the public record. You may also provide public comment virtually by registering ahead of time. To register, please email public comments by noon on the Tuesday prior to the board meeting. Public comments can also be mailed to the Board of Commissioners office at 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon, 97141. For more information on public comment options, please visit the Board of Commissioners webpage. Do we have anyone registered online for public comment?
We do not.
Okay. Well, let's get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Olson, will you lead us?
I certainly will.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, in terms of non-agenda items, there is one unscheduled item that will be taken after item number 10 this morning, and we are going to jump right in with election results with Tillamook County Clerk Christy Nysa. Thank you for joining us this morning.
You're welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
Results. So we finished up last night with 69.98%, and we had 15,164 ballots that we tabulated. So we did have a couple people who turned in their envelope but didn't enclose their ballot. So that happens every now and then. So we do have a few of those. So you'll see our numbers kind of reflected with an asterisk as we go forward with our published results. We will have our next set of results tomorrow at 5 p.m. The boards will come back tomorrow, and we'll process through the remaining drop site and postmarked ballots that we got last night and then today. So that will be our plan going forward. And then the next set of results will be next week, Thursday at 5 p.m. and then nothing until the 27th at 5 p.m.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you still holding to your prediction of 87%?
Well, it's one can hope. We'll see. Probably not, but pipe dreams.
Well,
Yep.
I thought it was a good prediction, and I was wondering if there's a precedent for what percentage of votes are still out there?
It's so hard to tell with having it be postmarked. You used to be able to kind of gauge a little bit because you had pretty much everything in election night, but now it just depends on who dropped in the mail. So we have a higher number that are dropping in the mail and going through the postmark. So it's hard to kind of gauge that part.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you. I'll jump right in here. I'm the liaison to the clerk's office, and so I've been watching them over the years, and they only have a staff of 4, and I think they do a rather remarkable job with just 4 people all year long, and that includes not an election, which both the primary and the general election are pretty substantial undertakings. It involves a lot of planning, thousands, tens of thousands of ballots each time. And then, of course, there are a few special elections. But that office also takes care of all the county's property records, and that's a day-to-day activity. Every time a property is purchased or sold or changed or a lien comes forward or something, what they do as well. And they do that with only 4 people, and that includes a vacation here and there and some other long hours. I also think, I would like to thank publicly the staff who comes in, and I'm not sure how many you had, maybe 8 or 10 or.
We have 10 temporary for this election.
Okay.
Yes.
And they do get paid a rather modest stipend of some kind, as I understand it, correct?
They do get an hourly rate. Yeah, by statute, they have to make at least minimum wage, or whatever it's comparable if you have a pay scale set up. So, and we do. So they're on the temporary, they make $17.02 an hour.
So pretty modest wages for an important job.
Mhm.
And one of them I happened to speak with last night, when she started some years ago, didn't even realize she got paid. She thought it was volunteering. So these are the kind of people we have. They just step up and they make the system work. And so I'm really grateful for what you do and your staff. And by the way, she didn't point out, but Christy was reelected to a 4-year term. And so she will be a county clerk for the next 4 years, and then she can decide whether to run again on, that'll be a decision in 4 years. But I think the integrity of what goes on here, and we now have I think there were 9 separate screens that you could watch various parts of the office and what's happening in real time, and you go through the website and onto YouTube, and it was really, really good, high resolution pictures. I went out for a little dinner last night and came back through 8:30 or whenever it wrapped up or began to wrap up. And when I looking on my iPhone, it was just crystal clear, like I was sitting in the office. And so that's a good system, and I think that's one more measure of reliability and transparency to our public. If they want to see what's going on, they don't have to leave the comfort of their home. They can tune in and watch Christie sit there and eat some of Commissioner Bell's cake that
Yeah.
just came in, and she did. And by the way, the Commissioner Bell, who was a superb cook, brought in 2 or 3 things for the people who were working because they work nonstop. They work right through the dinner hour and keep going. And so, all in all, from my perspective, this was just about in Tillamook County, certainly a flawless election so far. Which is not to say it's perfect because it's run by human beings, but nonetheless, I have a high level of confidence, and I would like to thank Christy and her staff because they do this. Now, they came in looking for work at some point in their life, and they were hired, and they have done it, but they take the job seriously, but it's not so seriously that they can't be human about it. Last night, I sat in the lobby right up till after 8 o'clock, and I watched some people come in. One lady came in who was from Las Vegas, and she was looking for the polling place because she didn't realize Oregon is vote by mail. And so she went to the counter, and this was like at 20 minutes to 8. And so they patiently explained to her, she had registered, so she was in the system. And they explained to her how it worked, gave her a ballot, and sent her off over to one of the little voting stands. And she filled out her ballot, turned it in, just before closing hour. But I'm thinking they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to go that extra mile and help her go through the system. And, they did everything except tell her how to vote. And I sat right there and listened and watched as they did that. And then she went off and filled out her ballot. And that was duplicated by maybe half a dozen others between 7 and 8 o'clock. And so I'm here to tell the people who might be watching this, the system works, and it works pretty well in Tillamook County. So thank you, Christy, for that. And I'll also mention too the measure that the Tillamook County had on there appears to be passing by a reasonable margin. So we'll hope for the best with your next round of counting. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think my colleague covered pretty much all of it very thoroughly, so I won't spend a lot of time. I will share my thanks to you and your staff and your temporary staff and everyone who's been a part of this, including Commissioner Bell, who last night was watching a ballot box as required as someone came to pull the ballots. So there are also the unsung heroes, because I'm assuming for every ballot box in Tillamook County, there was someone like Commissioner Bell who was sitting and watching and just ensuring that it all went smoothly, right? There was no concern, nothing untold happened. So it just thanks to you and your staff and all that you've employed in making this election fair and reasonable and ethical and legal and all of the things that go with it. Appreciate it and really looking forward to the final results on the county measure, as well as, many of the elections that are happening across our county. There are some that are still very close. I was just looking at all the results this morning, and there are some that are still very close. So lots to keep an eye on and watch. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
I also want to thank you and your staff and all the election workers, and I want to congratulate you on winning your election and congratulate you on your excellent leadership in your first national election as clerk.
Thank you.
So,
I
yeah,
appreciate that
yeah,
very much.
well
Yes.
done.
Thank you.
We are lucky to have you in this role.
Thank you. And I want to thank my staff because I couldn't do it without them. And they give 110% every day, and it's hard. It's been hard the last few weeks, but really appreciate them and their willingness to show up every day. So thank you to them as well.
Excellent.
Yes.
All right.
And thank you all for your support. We appreciate it very much.
Welcome. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. We will move on to our legislative administrative agenda. Item 6 is consideration of a prevailing wage rate contract for construction with HP Civil, Inc. for the Big Trout Three Rivers Bridge temporary replacement. With us, we have Chris Leidy, Director of Public Works. Good morning.
Good morning. So last week we presented the notice of intent to award for this project to HP Civil. It has a 7-day window in which somebody can protest against. Today is the last day that a different person can protest it. So this would be a signature for tomorrow if we have no objections. The other thing with this is that before signature, we need to have hard copy of the bonds. We do have a digital copy. The bond company did mail the hard copies out Monday. It did not show up in the mail yesterday. It should show up in the mail this afternoon in preparation for signatures tomorrow. So I recommend approval. This is a much needed and urgent project.
All right. Thank you very much. Commissioner?
Well, thank you. This is, I guess, the next step in what's been a year-long issue with a river that is threatening to take a couple of homes, occupied homes, and this simply takes it to another level. There were a number of solutions considered, and this is not necessarily the favored solution or the best one, but it's the most reasonable, logical, and timely, because sometimes the better solution costs money that is not available and those kinds of things, but something has to be done. So I see this as pretty routine and certainly support it, just recognizing that sometimes you have to take a solution that's not ideal, but something that works for everybody and move along.
Terrific. Thank you.
Yeah, we had a pretty good discussion of this last week, so I don't think we need to go into too much detail, but just to say this is the best option in a difficult situation. And again, appreciate Chris Leidy's work to get us to this solution.
Thank you. I agree completely. So I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a prevailing wage rate contract for construction with HP Civil, Inc. for the Big Trout Three Rivers Bridge temporary replacement, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Chris. And thank you. I was thinking he had the next one, but no. Okay, item 7 is consideration of an order in the matter of an appeal of the Planning Commission's decision to approve a conditional use request number 851-24-000192-PLNG-01 to develop a 10-year master plan for the Nehalem Bay State Park on a property zoned recreation management accessed via Gary Street, a county road, and designated as tax lot 100 of index section 05, township 2 north, range 10 west of the Willamette Meridian, and tax lot 300 of section 32 and tax lot 1700 of section 33, township 3 north, range 10 west of the Willamette Meridian in Tillamook County, Oregon. And with us, we have Sarah Absher, Director of Community Development, who is responsible for all that stuff I just read. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Commissioner Bell. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. So I'm actually hoping to talk less because you just did the heavy lift with the description of what this is. So before you is the board order for your signature that reflects the outcome of the September 30th appeal hearing for the 10-year master plan for Nehalem Bay State Park. The board ultimately chose to deny the appeal and uphold the Planning Commission's decision. All of that is reflected in the order. The findings are attached through the staff report as an exhibit. So if you're ready to sign, then we would appreciate that and we'll get the notice out of the decision.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.
Sure. I won't spend a lot of time on this. We had a really robust conversation a couple of weeks ago. We had it as a hearing in one of our meetings and had the person who had appealed come to the meeting. It was a really good discussion. And I think by the end of the discussion, we were all in agreement with the direction we were going, including the person who had brought the appeal. So I think this was a good example of how just really listening and understanding can bring about a good decision. So I am in support and ready to move this forward.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Thank you, as am I. This was a hearing that I thought was the opposite of an adversarial proceeding. It was like everyone was trying to get to the same thing, which was safety and safe passage into the park and so on. But there was also a process involved with the Planning Commission and all, and so ultimately we end up with this. But this is, I think, closes, as I understand it, closes the issue. And so I'm in full support that we move on, and I think everyone is in agreement and probably the right way forward.
Thank you. Oh, I agree. I think us signing this order is a reflection of the work that we did and the decision we made in that hearing. So I'm ready for a motion.
All right, here we go. Madam Chair, in consideration of an order in the matter of an appeal of the Planning Commission's decision to approve a conditional use request number 851-24-000192-PLNG-01 to develop a 10-year master plan for the Nehalem Bay State Park on a property zoned recreation management accessed via Gary Street, a county road, and designated as tax lot 100 of index section 05, township 2 north, range 10 west on the Willamette Meridian, and tax lot 300 of section 32 and tax lot 1700 of section 33, township 3 north, range 10 west of the Willamette Meridian, Tillamook County, Oregon. I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
May I ask a question before she leaves?
Yes.
Sarah, you're scheduled, I think, to the CAC in Pacific City on Saturday at 10, and I will be there as well. And then also, could you take just a moment and speak to what you'll be talking about? I mentioned it at a chamber meeting yesterday, and some people have some interest. I also talked about the joint meeting with the Planning Commission on the November 14th. So could you take just a moment and recap sort of the agenda as you see it for those meetings?
Certainly. So on Saturday at the Pacific City Woods CAC meeting, the things that I will be providing updates on are the biological opinion, the pick'em options, and what communities can expect potentially moving forward, largely with the focus on the reminder of please make sure if you are planning to submit a development permit application that you do so the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Because with the uncertainty of direction that the county is taking, as well as many cities and other counties across the state, one thing that our office has continued to do is to prepare landowners and customers as best as we can for any change that may come forward following our future meetings and discussions. I will also be providing an update on the Pacific City Airport. So I am finalizing a December meeting with the Oregon Department of Forestry, the Oregon Department of Aviation. As you are aware, there are some concerns related to impacts of development around the airport and airport safety. So we're going to touch briefly on that, and then also to reassure them that I am bringing the short-term rental cap board order back for your consideration. I do hope to do that before the end of this year. As you're aware, I've had conversations with all of our communities about their short-term rental license caps. Pacific City is one of those that is very anxious to see that process move forward. So we'll be providing an update for them on that as well. And then generally, I'm there to answer any other questions that the community might have. But we usually get about between 40 and 70 people in attendance. So they're robust meetings and well attended, and it's a good time.
And how about the joint meeting then with the planning commission?
Yes, so that meeting is scheduled and has been publicly noticed. There will be a joint planning commission and Board of County Commissioner meeting on Thursday evening, November 14th at 7 p.m. at the Port of Tillamook Bay Conference Center, where there will be a discussion with staff on the FEMA biological pick'em options. So the Planning Commission is prepared for that. I have sent them various materials. I anticipate several elected and public officials from cities and counties across the state to listen into that meeting online. And community members will be attending that meeting. And so that will be an opportunity for the board and the Planning Commission to engage in a thoughtful conversation about these options, and an opportunity for the board to hear from the Planning Commission, the CACs, and others before we most likely meet the Wednesday before Thanksgiving to talk about what we're going to do with that December 1st deadline quickly approaching.
Thank you. I also told the people at the meeting at the port, we didn't anticipate any decisions from either the planning commission or the commission.
That is correct. It has been noticed essentially as a workshop. I have asked folks if they would like to provide public comments. I am building a section into the agenda for that to keep their comments to 3 minutes per person or entity. I have some CACs, the EDC, I anticipate the Creamery Business Oregon, and a few others who will also be taking an opportunity at that meeting to prepare something to share with you about their thoughts about this. So trying to keep it structured so that you have an opportunity to hear from as many people as possible at that meeting.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, moving on to item 8, we have consideration of amendment number 1 to the State of Oregon Department of Environmental Quality Coronavirus State Fiscal Grant Agreement number 089-23 for the repair, replacement, upgrade, or evaluation of failing or damaged residential or on-site septic systems. With us, we have Chris Chiola, the Environmental Program Manager from the Department of Community Development. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Very simply, this is a grant application that we had originally, I don't remember the date, but it's been a while. I mean, we've been working through it, and the reason for this amendment is basically changing the date from June 30th of 24 till December 31st of 24. We had some slowness in getting systems to be repaired into the system, so to speak, and this was just giving a little extra time to get those systems lined up so we could finish the repairs. And by the end of the year, we'll have everyone into the system that we're going to get fixed. But this was just giving a little more time for the state and other partners to get everyone in with their applications and getting the program wrapped up. So it's basically just a simple extension.
Okay, that sounds good. Can you tell us how many homes have been helped with this program so far?
I don't have a final count because there's still some in the application process through CAT that we haven't gotten yet, which is why they wanted the extension. Probably 20 to 25 will be the final estimate, maybe a little more.
That's great.
And I'll have once we get all of the applications in and the permits issued, we'll have a final list and kind of an idea of where in the county they all are. But right now, they're all over the county, north, south, and central county. So it's a good representation.
That's great. It's really good work. Thank you. Yeah, we hear from people about their failing septic systems and that they just can't afford to fix them. And especially people on a limited income, and so I'm really grateful for your work in this program.
Yeah, thank you. One of the things that I worried about is when this grant first came up, it was through 3 counties, Clatsop, Columbia, and Tillamook County. And I was worried that we weren't gonna get the lion's share of the system repairs, and I think it's been pretty even, and I think we're gonna come out a little ahead of the other counties with the numbers.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Commissioner?
Fabulous. Yeah, thank you. Maybe that's part of the benefit of being the grant recipient, right?
Correct.
Because when this came
Wink, wink.
before the opportunity came up, a county needed to step forward to be the grantee. And as the Board of Commissioners, I'm thankful to my colleagues that we were willing to do that. And I think that may help a little bit. So, but I'm delighted that we have been able to support people in making these repairs. I do hear not only from individuals, but from their neighbors who are concerned that, I see my neighbor's septic field, I see standing things, and I just feel like it must be something wrong. And our ability to work with folks has been fabulous. So I appreciate your work on this. I know we had a lot of conversation about this being one more thing to add to your plate at a time when you already had a full plate. So appreciate you making room for this on your plate and for our community. So
Sure.
thank you for
I love extra helpings.
that.
Commissioner?
Well, thank you. Yes, I would agree this is a good way forward and a good thing to do. My question sort of, when I think about this, being somewhat, or maybe even primarily a rural county, we have all these, we have 7 cities, of course, and we have a lot of small water and sanitary sewer districts. How many people in the county, how many private homes or even businesses are on a septic system? Could you make an educated guess?
An educated guess would probably be between 5,000 and 7,000 people. That doesn't include a number of households. I mean, we'd have to run the numbers, but there's quite a few.
Yeah, so
Thousands.
it's substantial, and do you have any idea what percent of that fail from time to time, and just because systems, if they're not cared for properly, can fail or back up, or the drain field fills or whatever.
Probably around 10%. So that's a huge number. It's a small percentage, but when you look at the total number, there could be up to 10% or 700 systems that may be partially or completely failing. And it's a matter of us knowing where they are and finding them and walking the people through the system. But, when we put systems in, like new systems, the failure rate on those are pretty low, about 1%. So anything we've done in, a new system is 20 to 25 years old. So there's not that many out there that aren't working anymore. It's some of these really old systems that we don't know about, that we know about, but we haven't been able to get to them yet. So, but overall, I think the number's fairly low.
Well, I was just curious. I once had property with a septic system, and I had to treat it and put stuff in there every so often, as compared with making a phone call and then going fishing and let somebody else worry about it. So, and it can also be for people on modest incomes who in a rural area can be a financial burden if something goes seriously wrong. And so I'm just curious what it is, because I know we have lots and lots of people who are sort of off the beaten path and they rely on that system.
Yeah, and a failure could just be something with the tank that's not functioning correctly and it's not getting out to the system. So there might be the tank might be settling and there's a pool of sewage just right there at the tank lid that may not be going anywhere. So they may be minor systems like that, situations like that, or they could be something where it's direct discharge to a river, which we're trying to get to as many of those as we can that we know about. So there's a whole range of failure types.
Well, keep doing your job. It's one of those things that, we do in a civilized area, and that's certainly where we are here. So thank you for what you do, and
Thank you.
I'm good with this particular request.
All right, thank you. I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay, Madam Chair, in consideration of amendment number 1 to the State of Oregon Department of Environmental Quality Coronavirus State Fiscal Grant Agreement number 089-23 for the repair, replacement, upgrade, or evaluation of failing or damaged residential or on-site septic systems project, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you,
Thank
Commissioners.
you, Chris.
Okay, item 9 is consideration of an Oregon Public Service Retirement Plan Coverage Agreement to establish new employer coverage for county employees. With us, I believe we have Sean Blanchard, Tillamook County Treasurer.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
On October 9th, you signed Resolution R24-015, by which the county announced its intention to participate in PERS. This is the retirement plan coverage agreement that I'm bringing before for your signatures, enrolling us in what we both bargained with AFSCME and Teamsters, and any future employees that are hired after January 1, 2025 will be enrolled in PERS and OPSERP. And it's for your signature today.
Thank you. Commissioner?
It's another one of the final pieces of this puzzle. We have been talking about it. We did pass the order, which allowed PERS to create the coverage agreement, and now it's time to take this final step to move it forward.
Agreed. Commissioner?
Well, thank you. I support this as well. I know it's part of a little bigger long-range plan. The PERS system that we're talking about is the largest and probably the most significant public employee retirement system, PERS, in the state of Oregon. It includes the state itself and a large majority of cities and counties and other public employers, and it's a multi-billion-dollar fund that funds workers who put in some time and made their career in public service, and this becomes part of their retirement system. It's a change to Tillamook County because we've had a private system and will continue to have for a number of years. So there'll be two parallel systems, but this is one of the final steps to convert for new employees going into the larger statewide system. So I think we've all looked at that and talked about it a lot, and certainly makes sense to me to do it. And this is one more administrative step to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree. We are here just signing the contract for decisions previously made and bargained, so I'm ready for the motion.
Perfect. One last comment is just, this is one of the cost-saving measures that we are using moving forward. So, we have a lot of conversation we've been holding about budget, and this is one of the steps in budget. So, okay. Madam Chair, in consideration of an Oregon Public Service Retirement Plan Coverage Agreement to establish new employer coverage for county employees, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Sean. Item 10 is consideration of a backyard planting program landowner agreement with Tillamook Estuaries Partnership for voluntary riparian planting. Rachel Haggerty.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. Tillamook Estuaries Partnership has a very robust backyard planting program where they work with landowners to plant riparian areas. They'll clear blackberries and other invasive vegetation and replace with native vegetation that's appropriate for the area. So they identified a property that Tillamook County owns up the Trask, about 10 miles up the Trask, and they've developed a planting plan. It's 600 feet long, 1.3 acres. It would include blackberry removal and a mix of conifers, hardwoods, native shrub plantings, and they're asking for the board's permission to proceed with that. So before you is a landowner agreement that allows them to access county property and conduct this work. It's a 5-year agreement that allows for a couple of years of maintaining around the plants to ensure that they don't get engulfed by blackberries again until the plants are free to grow. So it's ready for your consideration.
That sounds like a great deal for us. Commissioners?
Yeah, agreed. I have purchased a farm-to-table dinner from Tillamook Estuaries Partnership for the last 3 years with a group of friends, and we've been visiting a farm in North Tillamook County that has been through this process, and it's been really fun to watch the evolution of the plantings over the course of those 3 years as they have really taken hold and begin to really thrive. And I think that's the key to this, multi-year agreement is get them in the ground, have them protected while they really move into a period where they thrive, and then they will just make sure that non-natives don't appear and the blackberries don't take over. So I think it's a great opportunity, to your point, for us as a landowner to do the right thing in a riparian zone and not have it be on our teams to make it happen. So thank you, Rachel, for this work. We appreciate you bringing it forward.
Commissioner?
Thank you. Yes, I understand what you're doing, I believe, and I believe it is a good way forward. And Tillamook Estuaries Partnership, I think it's a great organization. They do these kinds of things, and I'm not totally familiar with everything they do, but I know they've done a lot of very, very good things. This would be among them, and to the extent that we manage vegetation in Tillamook County, I think that's ordinarily a good thing as well. So yes.
Thank you. I am fully supportive and grateful for the work of TEP.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a backyard planting program landowner agreement with Tillamook Estuaries Partnership for voluntary riparian planting project, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, we have one unscheduled item, which is consideration of a professional services agreement with Tiberius Solutions LLC for public finance analysis. Rachel Haggerty.
I'm very excited to bring this to you today. It's a result of a lot of work that the Budget Roundtable meetings, which have included the Budget Committee, which includes the Board of Commissioners, as well as the full county leadership team. The group has been meeting for several months to explore budget revenue ideas as well as cost reduction measures. A huge list has been generated, some of which has been vetted. And we've hit a point where we needed to bring in some experts to help us further that work. And so before you today is a contract to do that would be paid out of ARPA funding. The scope of work includes, to summarize, when Tiberius Solutions comes to us from our consultant, Mike Gleason. He's worked with them before. And in their scope of work, it includes a long list of clients of cities and counties and special districts throughout the state, as well as they shared an example of their work with some work that they did in Multnomah County, and it looks great. It looks like it's exactly what we need. So the scope of work will begin with a very detailed evaluation of the feasibility for Tillamook County to implement a utility tax. This idea was born out of the Budget Roundtable meetings and appears to be very easy, relatively speaking, and quick to implement, and can yield a large amount of revenue. And so Tiberius will dive into that. There's actually a couple of different types of taxes or fees that could that fit this box, and so they're going to work on that initially, and we are expecting a recommendation on how to proceed with that by the end of December. So that's exciting. And then concurrently, they will be working on taking that full list of everything that we've looked at through the Budget Roundtable meetings and doing a deeper dive. So they will do a preliminary analysis of all of them, and then they will work with staff, especially the Treasurer's Office, to develop criteria and a scoring matrix, and they will do a bunch of research on each of them. And then they will do a preliminary evaluation, and for ones that are starting to rise to the top for high priority bang for your buck type alternatives, they will do a deeper dive into those, which will yield final recommendations. So the timeline on that is the preliminary evaluations completed by March with a final evaluation by May 31st. So along the way, I'm expecting, kind of like was identified through the Budget Roundtable, that we wanted to cherry pick the utility tax or fee out and move forward with that. We've already been moving on putting the TLT increase on the ballot. I could see that there may be an alternative or two that come out of some preliminary work that we may want to move forward with, especially as we're coming up on the budget season. So I think this is an exciting scope of work. I'm glad that they're available to us. The last thing I wanted to add was in the bigger picture of what the county needs in assessing our finances and giving us, in trying to develop a good path forward. We also need a financial assessment and a 5-year or longer financial strategic plan. And so we'll be keeping an eye on when the best time to do that is. We may be doing it, starting that before the end of the year, so we can also use ARPA money to begin the financial assessment piece. But just want you to know that those are lingering, and we have intentions to move forward on those activities as well. We want to get this started and get that going, and then reevaluate shortly. So this is ready for consideration, and they are ready to start work today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Commissioners?
Yeah, no, this is really exciting. I had the opportunity to look at their proposal and their sample report, and it takes all the good work of the budget roundtables and can just do the deep dives on the different options that are in front of us and evaluate them from all the same things we've talked about, but didn't necessarily know the answers to, the legalities of them, the political viability of them, the timeline to implement them, just really getting into the nuts and bolts of the ideas that popped up. So super excited about that, and I think the utility franchise or fee or tax has come up, and looking at some of the big players that have utilities in our community, the Comcasts and others that we don't charge anything for that other cities and larger counties do. So I think it's a really good opportunity for us to get this deep dive work done. We have for a long time said we wish there were more ways to bring in money and have felt that as a county, our hands were tied. And I think the Tiberius Group, because they've done this work with a lot of other municipalities, counties, et cetera, there's a line in there that says, and other ideas that we have, essentially, meaning their base of knowledge becomes available to us, which is something we have been missing for a long, long time, is who can tell us what other options exist that we just don't know about yet? This is one of our keys to get to that place where what we have missed, we stop missing it. It becomes, known to us and can evaluate if it's really a good choice for our community. So critical work.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Thank you. Well, I read all their material they submitted. I was not familiar with that particular group, but they're fairly new, but they've been around, I think, 5 to 7 years, maybe longer, some of them individually. It's a small organization, just 2 or 3 or 4 people, but they have a really impressive list of clients, including, I would say, over half the cities and probably 70 or 80% of the population in Oregon, a good number in Washington, and not just cities and counties, but a number of special districts as well. And so I do think we're at a point where we've identified in excess of 60 options for either cutting expenses or additional revenue or some combination of both, which is probably where it will end up. And so then at that point, to have another set of eyes that have said, well, they did this over in this city, or they tried this in this county and here it worked, or it didn't work at all, or it got a lot of pushback, or there were legal obstacles. Those are things that we don't know, and although we could certainly find out, but I'm not sure anybody in the county has the time and maybe the expertise to go in and bring all that forward. And so this is what they will do with money that's federal money pass through that's not coming out of the general fund. And so I think when their exercise is complete, that there'll be a much clearer path forward, and they can identify, well, if you do this, then you can expect A, B, C, and D. And if you consider this, maybe not so many objections, it would be easier, or there'd be legal obstacles, or they have been removed, or whatever it is. And so in my judgment, too much information is rarely a bad thing, although if you get to the 85 or 90 or 95% point, then sometimes you need to make a decision and move forward. But this will fill in that gap of what others have done. And if you believe in not reinventing the wheel, this is a pretty good way to do it. So I'm in full support of bringing them on as well and let them do some heavy lifting. And if it comes to it, they can take a beating from the public instead of others. So, it's as a practical matter, the county obviously has full decision authority to decide which, if any, make sense. But two sets of experienced eyes that have been doing this for a number of years, probably not a bad thing.
Well, I agree with my colleagues, and I think they've covered it very well. I'm fully supportive and ready for a motion.
Okay, Madam Chair, in consideration of a professional services agreement with Tiberius Solutions LLC for a public finance analysis, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. All right. Well, we have a couple of executive sessions today, and excuse me. I don't expect that we will make decisions in these sessions, and so I will read the board announcements right now before we go into executive session. The commissioners will hold a board briefing today, Wednesday, November 6th at 2 p.m. to discuss weekly commissioner updates. The meeting will be held here in the Board of Commissioners meeting room, 106 at the Tillamook County Courthouse, 201 Laurel Avenue. The teleconference number is 971-254-3149, conference ID 866-914-607#. Veterans Day is an observed holiday for the county and Oregon State Circuit Court. All county offices in the Tillamook County Courthouse and the Tillamook County Library, administrative offices in the Jail and Justice Facility, Public Works Department, Department of Community Development, Surveyor's Office, and Health and Human Services Department and clinics, and the Circuit Court will be closed on Monday, November 11th at 2024. I would invite folks to the local veterans event at the Tillamook Air Museum on the 11th. There's a breakfast that starts at 8 o'clock. The ceremony starts at 11. So I invite the community to join us there for that. The commissioners will attend a public meeting Thursday, November 14th at 7 p.m. for a joint discussion with the Tillamook County Planning Commission regarding the Federal Emergency Management Agency's biological opinion. That's what Sarah and Commissioner Olson were talking about earlier. The meeting will be held at the Port of Tillamook Bay Conference Center at 4000 Blimp Boulevard in Tillamook. The virtual meeting link will be posted prior to the meeting on the Department of Community Development's homepage. The commissioners will attend a Forest Trust Land Advisory Committee on Friday, November 15th at 10 a.m. at the Oregon Department of Forestry headquarters and State Street in Building C in Salem. And the commissioners will attend the annual Association of Oregon Counties Conference in Eugene from Monday, November 18th, 2024 through Friday, November 22nd, 2024. There is no community update scheduled for Tuesday, November 19th, and there's no Board of Commissioners meeting and no board briefing scheduled for Wednesday, November 20th. And with that, we will move into executive session at 9:46 under Horace.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Under 192-6602B, which is to hear complaints against a public official or an employee, and also under 192-6602H, that's to consult with counsel regarding pending or threatened litigation. Joel has been the point person on both of those things, so I'm going to take my leave and he'll participate from here on.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. You're welcome to come up, Don. Are you? Yes. Oh, sorry, Jane. So we'll have to get into the executive session meeting and Joel will join us. I think Paul also will join us remotely. Ready? Yeah. All right, we are back in regular session at 11:25. We have made no decisions in executive session. We will adjourn our regular meeting at 11:25. Thank you.
Well, good, there's time for lunch before I have to go.
That is good. So I don't know what all, we're talking about, we're talking with NCRD this afternoon and we're talking about central services. So if is NCRD planning to come in right at 2? Okay, so that's what you would likely.
That's what I would like to, and I don't have any huge questions about their project.
Okay.
So I think, you'll get
Didn't they spread it out before on the board over here, all their